What problems are troubling you? What's frustrating you, bothering you, worrying you? Want solutions? Want answers? Welcome to Here We Come to Save the Day, hosted by David Adelson. This podcast is dedicated to solving everyday and global problems in an uplifting, fun, enjoyable way. There is a solution to whatever's troubling you. Ask your questions and we'll do our best to give you practical, useful, workable solutions you can use starting today. Join us now with David's special guest experts who will share their own experiences, life lessons, and practical strategies for creating the life you long for. Start living your best life today, right now, with David Adelson and friends.
Welcome to another fun, exciting, and knowledgeable episode of Here We Come to Save the Day. Today, how we're going to save your day is I have with me Ariel Yarger, who is going to help mothers move out of a place of overwhelm or confusion into a calm and intentional mindset. You can interact with your children happily and creatively. Welcome, Ariel. Thank you for being on our show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
So what are you going to tell people today? What can they expect to learn?
Well, I think they can expect to look at overwhelm a little easier and not get so panicked in the moment, because everybody has these moments. Everybody is overwhelmed, either with their own household duties and chores, or the children are a little crazy that day, or we're reaching that hour when it's just before supper time and everybody's tired. So we've all had those experiences, and I just wanted to kind of share some things I like to remember during those times and things I sometimes do to get through them a little easier.
So I understand you're going to tell us about 3 different situations that come up often where one can feel overwhelmed, and tell the people how to handle those situations so that they not only, I think the term you wanted to use was not only survive, but thrive. Was that the term?
Right.
Good.
I'm sure you will survive. Everything, this too shall pass, and you will survive, but we really want to get to the place where you as a mom or dad and all of your children are thriving and growing and able to, what's the word I want? Navigate these times when things are a little bit overwhelming or a lot overwhelming.
Yeah,
you're right.
Because we all want to have, yes, I won't even go there. Okay, so we're going to get to that in a minute. I do want to remind people that we have the Peace and Harmony program available. We have a number of different units that are good for whether you want to just create peace and harmony in your family and apartment, whether you apartment building, your neighborhood, your community, your city, your country, your state, whatever you want to do. We have different levels. Go to Peace and Harmony CO, peaceandharmonyco.com to find out about these. We do have a sample you can try at peaceandharmonydownload.com, and I encourage you to do that. We also have a very powerful program, and we'll be launching a new website, which may be out by the time you hear this, called Forever in Flow. And these are about helping people get in flow, find their purpose, get their purpose, move forward in a smooth and comfortable, effortless way. And there's a bunch coming out on that. A book and things are coming out. So yes, we want to encourage people to take advantage of these programs. We do work one-on-one with people. We do have literally hundreds of things that can help you. We have tinctures, for instance, that can help you feel happy or relaxed or loving when you're not feeling those. And the Peace and Harmony program itself has been used to stop family squabbles and arguments. It has been used to, so that someone playing it down here, the people stomping around in the apartment above have stopped stomping around without any interaction whatsoever. So it's a very powerful program, and I urge you to take advantage of this and help create peace and harmony in the world. And the bigger units really can, we have used them to, people have reported reduced crime in their neighborhood, averting forest fires, averting tornadoes and averting hurricanes. So the bigger units are quite powerful. And if that's your goal, we can help you, peaceandharmonyco.com. So welcome, Ariel. So I know that there were times that my mother would hit a pocket, and life was unpleasant for all of us. And we have all spent years clearing the scars from those moments. And
Yes.
I know that the mothers who are listening to this, they would prefer, they wish well for their children. They love their children and they want their children to thrive. So what's the first most common situation that people reach that? And what do you suggest? What are the circumstances that build up to it? And how do you avert it, prevent it, handle it? What do you got for us, Ariel?
I think the first or the most dramatic overwhelm we feel is often the result of smaller overwhelms we've gone through. Like we're in the smaller overwhelms where it's just us. We put all these expectations on ourselves and we figure we're supposed to be perfect and know everything. And you know, and I know that nobody's perfect. A mom is not perfect, and she's only doing the best she can do in any moment. But she feels she should know it, do it. Everything should be peaceful and calm, and life just doesn't work that way. Unless they're running one of your programs in the background, that might help. But what I want to say is, don't expect so much from yourself as a mom or a dad. Just take it as it comes and do the best you can. And then when you have to draw the line and say, okay, enough is enough. This can't go on anymore. It usually is to the point where the children have picked up on your energy and they're at each other, and you've had that long enough and you don't know quite what to do. So let's start there. Let's start with children are just wilder today than normal, or at each other today more than normal, or if you only have one little one, they're crying and nothing's working. They try something, it doesn't work, they cry. They don't want to do what you ask them to do, all those little things. My advice for that moment is the first thing you do is you take a deep breath. Sometimes I even count how long I breathe in, so I breathe out the same amount, the same count. So I breathe into a count of 4 and then breathe out to a count of 4. And I just do that. Just take a moment and do that first. Then you need to see if it's more than one child, which one is the most upset. And you just step into the situation and take a moment and get to eye level with that child. My daughter does this beautifully. I don't know where she learned it, but she does it beautifully. She gets right down on her knees, maybe right now, yeah, eye to eye with with one of the children, and she says, what are you feeling? What is upsetting you? And she gives the child time to tell her. It may take him a little bit of time. He may be so mad he doesn't know what to say. He may be so mad he's said, I'm not talking to anybody. And she just stays there at eye level and says, well, you can talk to me. Let's talk about it. And then she decides if he needs some quiet time by himself until he can calm down, and she'll send him up to his room. Or she'll say, okay, let's take care of that. And if it involves another child, she'll turn to that other child and say, tell me what you're feeling. What's going on with you? And she just deals with each child individually. Now, what may happen is they may have to go into separate corners or separate rooms, or she may have to involve them in separate activities long enough for everybody to calm down. But you have to come to a point where you have a meeting of the minds. And a mother will feel that. She'll know that, especially if she's been able to separate them out. And a meeting of the minds for me was 4 or 5 steps. The first thing she did was they just discussed what happened. And I did this with more than one child at a time. If they had been calm, I'd bring them both in and we'd talk together. what happened? How did you feel? Then the next thing is, what could you have done? What could you have done to take care of it in a better feeling way? And well, she shouldn't have hit me. Yeah, I shouldn't have hit him. I could have just said stop, or I could have come and gotten you. And I'll say, great, we'll do those the next time. But the last thing I do, and I started doing this when my first couple were very young, and I found it works. I have each one confess to the other what they did. I'm sorry I hit you. I'm sorry I was yelling at you. And then each one, I usually will do it for one. Okay, what do you have to say to your brother? And she'll confess what she did, and then she'll say, please forgive me for hitting you. And then he has to say, I forgive you. And if they can go through that whole process, then I don't always make them hug, but sometimes we all hug, sometimes I hug each one, sometimes they hug each other. But the part where they say, please forgive me and I forgive you is critical, because if they just say, sorry, or I'm sorry, it doesn't end it. But when they've gone through that forgiveness step, they've both been heard, they've both accepted it, and it works better. Sometimes the I forgive you comes out, I forgive you. But it's important enough, and there's something in our spirits where that's important enough, it brings an end to it. So any big blow up, I always went for the meeting of the mind time. I never stopped until we'd gone there. And if we needed to separate again and have a little bit more time alone, that's what we did. That's what we did.
So I have a couple things here. One is, I just realized that I forgot to tell people why you're an expert at this and why they should listen to you. And I want to take that time now, because when you're talking about it, I think most people are picturing that you're a mother who probably had, the one or two kids or whatever. And so, good for you. And you're probably, and you've had experience. So that's probably worth listening to. But I really want to point this out because you're way beyond that. So, Ariel believes that motherhood is a sacred, vital, intentional calling. She's a life coach for mothers of young children, mostly 0 to 4. Is that correct?
Yes.
But we all know that even teenagers, or especially teenagers, or even in their 30s and 40s, some of these techniques will still work.
Yes. I'm using some now.
Yes. So as we know that, some days can just be overwhelming for a mother, but she offers programs, and together she feels that she can help you discover your innate wisdom and strengths. She'll help you learn new tools and strategies to become calm and strong as you care for your children creatively, gracefully, and lovingly. And I know there's a thing that you have 11 children. Yes, and I'm not finding it on my cheat sheet here. I apologize.
That's okay.
Yeah, so here it is. Okay. You birthed, raised, and schooled 11 children, which took 40 plus years. So you have quite a bit of experience. So you know whereof you speak. And I know that you have some things that you'll be offering people later as we get in the show. And if you feel to mention it, whenever you mention it. But I want to say that I know when my children were young, one of the first, it took me years to figure this out. But when I was exhausted, they went crazy. And when I was focused and well rested and sane, I didn't have to chase them down. And after a while, I started realizing that if they were going crazy and I would yell and they would just ignore me, that I was sending out chaotic energy and I needed to attend to me first. So I loved this. I didn't have the breathing thing that you had. I had to do whatever I did. So I think that's such a good tool. I know, there's things like meditation and take a nap and do all these things to recenter, but we don't always have time for that. I can't go back last night and go to bed earlier. And maybe I went to bed earlier, but
Exactly.
2 kids, 3 kids woke me up, whatever. Just that time with young children is a very, I want to say that's where the superpowers of who we are really gets to come forth. But we don't know we can walk through a wall until we've banged on the wall a little bit and do we discover that. So it's a very empowering time, excuse me, for mothers and for fathers. I want to mention also that this is also useful for the father as well. It's just that your experience as being a mother. So I love this little hack. What else you got for us? So that
One of the things that when you're thinking about your children, the place a mom really has to start from, and I've just learned a lot of this later in my life. I didn't have it to draw on when I was a mom, but I'm watching it work with grandchildren. I'm watching it work just between me and my adult children. If I just take a deep breath and don't say what I'm thinking of saying at the moment, things go a lot smoother. And there's another coach taught me. She does a little thing with the word release. Sometimes when I'm taking a deep breath and I'm breathing out, I'm saying to myself, release, release, release. And then I come back rebooted and ready to just come on to what that one issue is right now. I'm not worried about other children over here. I'm not worried about anything on the stove. I'm just dealing with the children that are in conflict. And if I can do that, then once they're calm, everything calms, and I'm calm, and everything's calm. But one of the things I want to suggest is a mom has to come from her own mindset. And my mindset is critical to what's going on in the house. And you're right, if I'm tired and I'm not catching things quick enough and I don't want to deal, and a lot of times we get to overwhelmed times because we just go, okay, I'm not dealing with that right now. I can't deal with that. They're going to have to fix that themselves. Well, depending on the age of your children and the skill your children have, they may be able to take care of it, they may not. And if you're already overwhelmed with their behavior, they're not taking care of it well. So a mom's mindset is really important. And if we can remember and start the day with the remembering that the divine in me, my spirit in me, loves me and adores me completely. I don't even adore myself as much as spirit in me adores me. And there is no judgment with that which breathes me. So I am a person, each of my children are people. Each of my children are unique, special individuals with their own talents, their own giftings. We may not even have a clue what they are yet, but they too are loved, completely adored, and not judged by the divine in them. So if I can remember that they are loved as much as I am loved, I need to treat them with that same love. And if I'm feeling love for myself, that's the energy and the attitude that they will sense from me. So things might not even get to overwhelm as quickly as they used to if we can remember that. And the other thing is that we need to be very observant and aware of what's going on around us, and especially with our children. And we will tune into our kids quicker than we realize. We know when one's gotten up on the wrong side of the bed by the time they're up 3 minutes. And if we can just give them a little extra time at that time, when we notice it, we can kind of short circuit some things that might go on later in the day. One of the things I suggest for moms is they set up some routines. There should be, for sure, and I didn't do this well, woke up and hit the ground running and took care of whatever the emergency was at that moment. From the moment my eyes fluttered open until my eyes closed at night. That doesn't work real well. But if there is a set routine of they get up, they get dressed. From the earliest age, they can make their bed in whatever way they're able. And then we can all come together. And if I'm doing the same thing, getting up, getting dressed, making my bed, doing whatever I need to do to start the day, taking a few minutes to say, okay, this is what we're doing today. Hopefully, this is what I'm grateful for sure. And before you head out the door, your day will start calmer.
So if I may, I have a couple things here.
Sure.
I love what you said about, them starting making their bed at an early age and whatever they can do. And this is something that we haven't talked about yet, but I want to, and that is that there's a great deal of joy in motherhood. We're talking about, how to solve problems that, when things go wrong, but we also want to be aware that there's a lot of fun involved. So we can, one of the things, if the 2-year-old is making their bed, the 4-year-old's probably doing better, but maybe not. And we can have we can have fun with that, and it's a great letting go of control that we've heard about parents who just hover too much over, and we want the child to be strong and independent and empowered when they grow up. So however they make their bed, we just go, great, good enough, and look how I made mine today. And maybe some days it's fabulous, and maybe some days you just threw it over, and and it is what it is. And I think a lot of not taking ourselves too seriously. We have a responsibility, but we want to just let an idea that the whole point of this is growing our heart, growing joy in our lives. And if we lead with that intention, and again, we have some programs that silent programs that you can be playing on, the iPod or the computer in the background or something, that can just make a difference, that can ease the mood, increase love, increase joy. We actually have tinctures and things that people can use.
That's awesome.
That can make a huge difference in how you're dealing with things. But my mother, who was I want to say she was very controlling about a lot of things, and she was. My father, however, thought life should be fun. So I mean, we all had things that just
that's how it works.
Yeah. Just as your kids have learned things that even you're now learning are great, and their children, we all go through the process. And our parents as you said, they were doing the best they could. They didn't know things. My mother had PMS, and that was actually suicidal. I mean, horrible PMS.
Oh, that's
and she went to a doctor at a time when there were not only no female gynecologists, but that men just said, mansplaining, men just said, yeah, no, that's not happening to you. That's not biologically what's happening. You're not going through this Great Depression. You're not up at 2:00 in the morning scouring the house because you're freaking out. You're not seriously considering suicide or murdering your kids. And she was, and that was, and nowadays there's some supplements you can take that's so fixable. Yeah. But the fact that they acknowledge it now makes a big difference. And so where I want to go with this is, you don't have to be that way if you're feeling some of these things. Our programs, doctors, coaches, working with you, Ariel, there are so many ways to not go through that intense pain that somebody even 2 years ago went through. It's certainly avoidable. And the first thing I want to encourage is to look for someone like Ariel. Look for someone who can help you move into a place where life is more joy, more of the time than stress.
We're living in a very different time, emotionally and spiritually, than we were even when I was raising my children. My youngest child moved out in the last 3 years. My oldest is 41, my youngest is 25. And she moved out in the last 3 years. And so much has changed in that. What I wanted to say was, don't ever, ever be afraid to seek help or advice from somebody you know. And they may know, if they can't help you, they may know somebody who knows more. For example, I'm a coach, and I understand I am learning more and more about energy and how energy works all the time. But I will not at this moment claim to be an energy healer, but there are men and women out there who have an incredible knowledge of how energy works and about how it's they can feel how it's working in you, and they can help you. You just ask for help. We're not an expert. None of us really know everything. And moms don't have to know everything. I'm here to tell you, you don't have to know it all. Well, and now, my sons who are doctors do this. Now you can go to Google for anything. It's amazing what you can find on the computer. When I was raising children, my oldest was 15 before people were having personal computers. And we didn't have one right away. He was furious with us at 18 when he didn't have a cell phone. And that's when cell phones were big. So today's technology has a lot to offer us, and there are a lot of enlightened people who know things we didn't know 10 years ago, or all of it. You know, it wasn't as broad spread. So seek help. And if you're feeling overwhelmed a lot of the time, there's a reason for that. And don't take, oh, it's just in your head. No, it'll pass. Don't take that. Find someone you know who knows someone, if that's what it gets to. Don't ever be afraid to seek for more information.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is, my mother talked to the one or two people who she thought, and they dismissed it. And
yeah,
what I want to encourage people is, the first thing is, have the intention of the life you want, and don't, and yes, you can shoot for the moon, and
of course,
and then open and allow and ask for the resources, the materials, the knowledge, the techniques, the energy thing. Ask for what you want. So, and I want to get very specific, Ariel, because I think we've been talking in vague generalities. So there were times that my mother was so upset she would scream at us that she wished we were never born. And as an adult, and as a kid, that was devastating and terrifying. And the amount of fury that she had behind her, what left scars that, some of us are still working out today. But that wasn't really what she wished. What she wished was that she had the strength to handle the situation, because she would come up to us so apologetic and so lovingly later, trying to undo it. But that's hard. You can't undo it.
You can't do it, yeah.
So what I want to say is, but she knew, she looked, and she did the best she could. And my mother was a huge seeker who went through, many different spiritual paths before she found the one that worked for her. And her thing was, is this working for other people? Yes or no? And if the people, so we don't need to go into that, but I want to just encourage people. I know someone who went to 24 doctors before they found somebody who worked with them.
Yep.
Know what you want, ask for it, and don't stop till you get it. Because there's no excuse, whether it's medical doctors, whether it's psychologists, whether it's, as Ariel talked about, energy healers, whether it's tinctures or bottles or flower essences or aromatherapy or essential oils. There is the wealth, or vitamin supplements, the wealth of what is available to make your life easier, so that you are strong and your children grow up healthy and well nourished and as very useful, fully embodied, fully ideally realized, fully loving, fully joyful people. That's doable now. And quite frankly, I don't think it ever was before. So
I don't think so either.
So I think this is quite amazing. So could you give us a couple examples of of something that could come up to somebody and in somebody's day-to-day thing. And we've done the breathing thing as a solution when we've already felt overwhelmed. What can we do to prevent getting to that stage in the first place?
Okay. Let me take what we do to ourselves as adult parents. We get a picture in our mind of how we want things to be. And I'm not talking about what you were speaking of, where you put out what you really want, where you want to be progressing toward. But like, I am a list maker. And if I get started on a list, I will end up with a list of things to do that's 20 items long for one day. Now, I know now that I can't multitask like I used to. And I also know now that if I have more than 5 things that have to happen that day, the most I'm going to get done are 5. In fact, I was at a conference and they were talking about this. They'd done a study in business, and they had a group of people just list 3 things a day, a group of people list 5 things a day, and a group of people list 10 things that they were going to do that day. And they found that all 3 groups got 3 things done. Sometimes the 5 group got their 3 things and then they got another extra 2 done. But the 10 group never got everything done. And I understand that more now than I did. So I would advise a mother with children, whether it's a baby, especially if it's a baby, or toddlers, and even teenagers, make a list of 3 things for sure. If you want to put down an extra 2, in case you get those 3 done easier than you thought, then put down 5. But don't go further than 5, really.
So I think that's a great idea. I will tell you that I think some people, the number one thing is get through the day with everybody still alive.
That's right. That is number 1.
Yeah. And number 2 is have fun. But I also think, when you talk about the things to do as a parent of a newborn or a very young person, maybe one of them is get the groceries today. Maybe one of them is do the laundry today. We want to. What are some of the things that you find that you put down as a mother, or that your clients put down as in their list? What a type of, when you say, because obviously there are certain things like make meals or make sure they eat or whatever it is. Is that a listable? Is that a listable item, or is that a given? And these 3 things are over and above, changing the diapers. So give us a little more specific.
When there's, the other thing I tended to do was, what I would do is suggest, take the big jobs that need to happen during the week. You need to go shopping sometime. You need to do laundry sometime. It would be helpful if you could take some time during the week to plan, just even if in your head, okay, here's what I do. I plan the day I go shopping, which is usually Wednesday or Thursday, because it's too much to do Monday or Tuesday. The day I go shopping is often Thursday because it's after the new sales, and I go in and I see what meat's on special. And I buy 3 to 4 types of meat at that time, and I picture the meal in my mind that I might use it for, and I take it home. Then there's a day I do laundry. I try to do the laundry. Then there's a day, and one of the things that might happen as your children are older and can do some things for themselves, you set a laundry day for each child. Monday I do the babies and the household stuff. Tuesday, Joe does his. Wednesday, Mary does hers. Thursday, Tim does his. And Friday, we don't do any laundry. And I won't go into laundry hacks, but set days for the laundry to be done. And then you can say to yourself, oh, this is Thursday. I don't have to worry about the laundry today. It's done for a while, for 2 or 3 days now. And you can, or I have to go shopping. Well, you're going on Thursday. Oh, that'll be fine. I can last till Thursday. I got leftovers till Thursday. And that way, when you've established a day for the biggies, you can talk to your husband about when he could maybe be home with the kids while you go to the grocery store. Actually, I always had kids with me. That's just the way it worked. It didn't bother me to have kids with me. And they learned what we picked and why we picked that. And we did lots of little lessons, and it was part of school and all that kind of stuff. But if you know what day you're going to do certain things, you can make arrangements ahead of time and put it in your head. Okay, this is what I'm doing tomorrow. And even don't set a time to have it done by. Just know that sometime that day you're going to do the laundry. And you're only going to do what you have to do. And then you can work other things around those days.
I think that's a brilliant hack, and I'll tell you why. Because the relief of not having to do something is huge and palpable, and people do tend to. I love this idea of breaking things into different days that you're doing things, and again not having more than 3 things in any particular day. And I think that people who try it will find it really changes the mindset, because most of us forget the quality of time when we picture what we're trying to do. So we will take not just a day, but they'll take a month or a year, or, oh my God, I'm doing this till my kid is 18. And they're starting already thinking about what's going to happen when they're in school and where am I going to get the money when they're in college. And they take this whole life and they cramp it into what I have to do today. And then they go through the day bouncing mentally from one thing to another to another. And this idea that I don't need to do that today, that's taken care of, it's already on the schedule. So there's just a that happens when that happens. And that's huge, because it allows us to breathe. And breaking it up in this even semi-organized day, as you say, you don't have to say at 3 o'clock on this day, I'm going to do the laundry, I'm going to go shopping, I'm going to take the kids to a play date, I'm going to do this. It's going to happen sometime, and we know I don't have to deal with it today, and therefore I don't need to think about it today. And if we can apply that, and I don't need to think about their first day of kindergarten for at least 4 more years. I don't need to think about.
When we do that.
No, I get that. That's why I'm encouraging people to take advantage of this wonderful hack, because I know we do that. I know we see them fall down when they're 4 and we think, oh my God, what's going to happen when he's 22? He's not 22. We don't have to do that yet. We don't have to worry about so many things when they're younger. And
one of the things I think about when I schedule things, I am just now learning not so many times. I've done a schedule and it's I get up at 7 and at 7:30 I do, and at 8 I do, and at 8:30 I do, so forth and so on, time it all. And I'm learning that if I just take the morning block, the after lunch block, maybe a block around supper time, because I may have to plan some things for that time so I can get supper, and the block after supper, just blocks of time. And in this block of time, morning block, I'm going to put the washing in, and we're going to go outside and play in the yard. And then right after lunch, I'll put a load in the dryer and maybe start another load. But I do it in blocks. I set up blocks. And then if the block has to change, I change the block. If the kids are crazy and we need a nap after lunch, nothing happens in that block today until we've had lunch and everybody's had a quiet time.
Including you.
And then including me. Yes, very definitely. Yeah. Very definitely. When the kids were young, from the time I had my first baby, I slept when the baby slept. And then as they got older, and as I had kids doing school, we took a quiet time after lunch, because with our number of children, I always had a baby, even though I might have had some teenagers. My last baby was 18 months when my oldest was 18 years old. So we had babies all along. So we took a quiet time. It had to be at least an hour. They had to stay on their beds. We didn't have all the screens they have now. We didn't have the cell phones. We didn't have the iPods. We didn't have the iPads. They didn't do that. They could read. They could sleep. They could just lay there. But they had to stay on their beds. And everybody did this.
I want to I want to interrupt here. When you're doing this rest time, whether you call it a timeout, some people feel timeout is a punishment. Some people feel timeout is, oh boy, I get to do nothing here. I just want to encourage, especially the mothers of younger children. I know I know I'm going to be stepping on some toes here, but I will point out that all of the major computer developers would not let their kids play with phones, with cell phones until they were at least double digits in years, because they know the damage. Kids sitting on a bed playing with the computer are not getting rest. It's questionable at best whether watching TV during that time is providing rest. Some of us don't think so because we know the brain physiology and what's going on when they do it. So, but reading quietly, laying there quietly, daydreaming, sleeping, all of those things allow that rest to happen for ourselves and for others. And I think that's crucial. We're kind of running out of time, Ariel, and I want to bring up a couple things real quick. I love the idea of blocks of time instead of setting ourselves for 6, 6:37, 7:30, and whatever, because we want to not set ourselves up that we find fault with ourselves. If we set up and we say it has to happen at 7:30 and 7:32 rolls around, or worse, 7:45 or 8 or 8:15, in the same way that I don't have to do it this day because it's not on today to do, we want to let go of that thing. That's a self-created boundary. We're the one who made up the rule. We can make the rule up. We can change the rule. I thought it was going to happen at 7:30, but oh well, But if we don't even, but since most of us don't do that, since most of us have especially towards the end of the day, we look at all of the failures that we've had that day. I didn't make it at 7:30. It didn't happen until 9:45, and oh my God! And this didn't happen, and that didn't happen. And if we do this idea of blocks, it makes it easier. It's not setting ourselves up for something that may be challenging to accomplish. Again, leaning into joy. At your quiet times during the day, think about what went right instead of what went wrong is another thing that we can do. And don't take yourself so seriously. My mother was a lovely woman, and she was very ahead of her time in a lot of ways. She had some amazing gifts that she had nobody who could explain what was going on to her, but she was involved in civil rights way before anybody else was. She was involved in a lot of things like that for the good of others. She was a very gigantic heart for helping humanity, but she also, it took her decades to get, I want to say, unstressed. And she told the story, she tried to keep the house neat. The beds would have had to be made this way and not a different way. And we've already talked about, the 2-year-old, however they make the bed is great. And then let's see how it comes out tomorrow. And maybe it's flat and smooth, and maybe it's not, but, move on. But what I want to say is, she told us one time that she went to visit a friend's house, and her friend had older children. I don't know they were still at home children, but I honestly don't know if they weren't one, they weren't two or whatever. And my mother said she walked into this woman's house, who was a dear friend of hers, and the whole living room was a complete disaster. And kids were literally jumping up and down on the furniture and screaming and yelling and doing all this stuff. And this woman was a painter. And she said, it's completely surrounded by all this chaos. This woman is standing there in front of her easel, just casually painting and doing her thing and not letting all of that craziness affect her. And I really want to encourage people to take things lightly. I love the hacks that you've given. I love that little reference to, I'm not going to go into the laundry hacks right now. I know you have hacks that you can offer people. We talked a little bit about it before this. I know that people may want to talk to you or work with you, and maybe there's some programs you're going to be developing. So how can people reach you and get the benefit of your joyful and loving and kind wisdom?
The easiest is probably by email, which would be Ariel Yarger, ARIEL YARGER, one word, small case, at gmail.com. And if when you email me, if you can leave me your email, I could call you and set up a time when we could get together and just talk for 15 minutes, either about the thing that's overwhelming you the most or anything going on that day that you just don't know what to do with. I'm real good at, if you have a question, 3 answers come to my mind. But if I'm standing on the street and somebody says to me, gee, you must be a wonderful mother, you must know so much, what's one thing you tell me? But if you give me a question, I've probably been through it 11 times. So I could get back to your email and we could set up a time. We could call it a discovery call. We could call it a helpline call, something like that. The other avenue you have
and just to be clear, my understanding is that there's no charge for that. So if somebody wants
no charge, it's free. Right. I wouldn't charge for that one.
Okay,
and
I just want to clarify. So for somebody who wants to talk to Ariel, just drop an email telling that you'd like to. Doesn't have to be a long story, but do whatever you feel.
Right.
And she will get back to you. So it's at Ariel Yarger, AARRIELYARGER @gmail.com. And it'll be in the show notes as well below there. And I'm encouraging her to do some other things, but we'll find out whether she does or not. But if she does, we'll put that in the show notes also with links. So that's the first thing. And she's very generously offering to spend, 10, 15 minutes with you, helping you with a problem or two and seeing how she can help you further. I believe you work one-on-one with coaching people with a very limited number of people right now.
I do.
And that may be
I
something.
could explain that when we talk.
Yeah. And so that would be useful. And is there something else that you want to offer? I do have a Facebook page. It is the same name, Ariel. Oh, no, it isn't. I've just given you the wrong email. I gave you my personal email, so that will work. But there's another email, which is arielcoachingmoms @gmail.com. It's still Ariel, ARIEL, coaching moms, all one word, all small letters, @gmail.com. That would be a better way. It won't your message won't get in among my business messages, and so I'll see it quicker, number one. Number two, my Facebook page is the same title, Ariel Coaching Moms, on Facebook. So the email, arielcoachingmoms @gmail.com, and then Facebook, Ariel Coaching Moms. I love that. I'm sorry, I got to say this. I know because we were talking for a while before the call, and I've seen you talk before. I love that we're not the technically empowered people, and we'll get. Oh no! Wait, that's not the number. I can tell you all. I'm a master at helping you raise kids, but. Do you want my phone number? Wait a minute. There's digits involved. That's math. I'm not sure I can do that for you. Right. So,
I do have a conference number that when we talk, I will give you that phone number after you've emailed me, so that we can meet on a conference line that is free and private and the whole thing. It's just not my personal number. But I'll give that later when I'm thinking.
And when it's in front of me to read to you, because, I understand that completely. We're all good at what we're good at, and we all have our special skill sets. And I personally believe that some mothers are great with some things, some aspects of doing their kids. Some are great with all of it because that's what they're here to do. Some of them also work. And, we all have different things.
Exactly.
We want to take advantage of who we are. We want to recognize where our skill set lies and maximize, take advantage of that. And mostly we want a life where, all parents want their kids to be happy. All parents want their kids to do well. And we want to create that situation that really sets them, puts them on the path that gets them there. And I think that you can help significantly with mothers with your information and wisdom. So I encourage people to reach out to you. I think there's some great information there. And again, I just want to remind people that even before you reach out to her, playing the Peace and Harmony program, you can getting a unit is ideal. But if not, or the thing is, you can try a sample and even notice the benefits with that playing around. That's Peace and Harmony CO for Peace and Harmony Company, peaceandharmonyco.com. And for the free sample, it's peaceandharmonydownload.com. And those can start off with making a difference. I just want to encourage people to open up your desires to a possibility that you don't have to struggle. It's not all on your shoulders. Just lean towards the joy and look for it and look for ways to fulfill it. I know you have some hacks that you can send to people if they want it. Really, there's a lot that can be done to make your life easier, and it's a much better time to be having kids now than it has ever been before in many, many ways. There's still some tweaking. There's still some things that can be shifted, but just congratulations on having kids, and reach out for help, and don't stop till you get the help that you need.
Right.
Okay. Ariel, thank you so much. This has been delightful.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate what you're doing for so many others, and keep up the good work. And let's just turn this around for mothers so that they have a joyful experience, and that's what they remember, that's what their kids remember, and nobody's walking around without fully loving relationships within the family. So. Okay.
I agree. Thank you so much.
We've got some other really cool things coming up in future episodes of Here We Come to Save the Day. We have so many problems that we're going to be solving for you, including, you have hacks of how to do laundry better. We have hacks for people coming up about how to make better decisions. We've had episodes about just simply making good decisions, about how to find your mission, fulfill your mission, or get the word of your purpose out globally, if that's what you're looking to do. How to find joy in situations that might not appear to be joyful. How to plan your life so that you live in gratitude, you live in joy, you live in love more than not, and with the goal to move forever. How to create heaven on earth. There's all kinds of fun things coming up, so we urge you to come back again and again and share it with your friends. Go give us a 5-star rating, subscribe, share with other people, share the wisdom, share the love, and do well in life. And thank you for listening to Here We Come to Save the Day. Thank you again, Ariel.
Thank you for listening to another helpful, fun, and life-changing episode of Here We Come to Save the Day with David Adelson. To access the show notes and additional resources, go to herewecometosavetheday.com. If you've enjoyed the show and find it helpful and fun, please leave us a review and share with a friend. Tell us issues troubling you or questions you have. We're here to help you. That's what Here We Come to Save the Day is all about. Till next time.